So I'm staying at this hotel in Olympic National Park. I found this really interesting piece of tech. I was trying to figure out how old it is. I still haven't. It's a RCA two-band AM FM clock radio. Looks like a old TV. Has so many buttons. Really high tech for the time, I guess. I couldn't turn it on either. But I did read about this company, and it has really interesting, uh, more than 100 years old history. So I'll uh, tell you about a few of those, although you can look it up for a better factual accuracy, because obviously I will not have the dates and facts right because I just found about it. So, and I'm also recording this in 4 by 3 to kind of reflect on the old school recording, and it being a timepiece. Wow, so many buttons. So RCA is, I think, Radio Corporation of America. Um, this in 1920s up till 1960s was the prominent electronic or home entertainment and communication company, like Samsung of its time, but for just US. Interestingly, RCA was formed as part of reorganization of American Macaroni or Marconi. Again, look it up. I could be wrong. Which was a subsidiary of a British company, because they had early radios set up in Britain and England. It wasn't even called radio. It used to be called wireless telegraphy, which later they started calling it radio. So it was a British company. They had set up a American branch of it called American Marconi. It started almost in 1890s. Yeah, I'll repeat it again. 1890s. That's how old the radio technology is. And then again, I hate to say this, but that's almost 150 years ago, and people were focusing on invention. And I hate it, but in India we still haven't gotten to that level of innovation and kind of mindset, even after 150 years. So when we say, oh, we are only 20-30 years behind America or Japan or China, I think we are still more than 150 years behind in terms of how you solve problems or innovate. Care. So this was a British company. So it took a interesting turn after World War One in 1917 or 18. British Navy came in and they wanted this radio communication to be managed by an American company. A lot of things happened over the next 5 years, and then somebody acquired this company and made it all American company and changed American Marconi into Radio Corporation of America. So that was the birth of this RCA. It was a British company and then reorganized into American company, and then really worked well in radio communication innovation. Started this record label. It still has so many record owned, which I'll tell you later at the end of the story, that how this eventually got bought by Samsung and even destroyed in this whole last 1 century. So this was a prominent company for about 50 years. They did a lot of inventions. Look up, really fascinating how they started from CRT to eventually started making TVs, and did some invention in terms of how they used to have these LPs, and then eventually came up with CDs. There were a couple of more companies, other companies, like I think General Electric was also one of the biggest companies. There's another company named, I think, Columbia Records, which was formed in Washington because District of Columbia, uh, which was also, I think, which is also still owned by Sony now, because Sony became the biggest group of all, at least towards the end of the century. So, and RCA in fact even tried their hands into, they tried their hands into TV. They failed. They weren't as successful. They tried their hands into computers. They were not as successful because computer was completely dominated by IBM in 1960s and 70s. But they did do a lot of research. They had actually one of the best or research team, or um, there was a guy who, I forgot the name, but there was a guy who was managing this company for about 50 years. He was in charge of this company in research, and he really led the company in the right direction uh, till I think his last years at RCA, and maybe he died in 80s and late 70s. That's when RCA's downfall began, because RCA was purchased by General Electric, and they were competitors, so they really did not like RCA as much. So after the merger and acquisition, they kind of liquidated the company and really put it in the dumpster. There were a couple of other owners for this company towards the turn of the century. Uh, First decade and second decade of this 21st century, Sony acquired RCA, and really has this as just a name and a brand. They don't have anything come out of RCA. Yeah, so that's a long story. Again, for facts, please read up, look up. There are documents available. Wikipedia has a great page on it. There are some more interesting facts in terms of what technologies they invented. They have some patents on their name. Really did well during the time when um, America had gramophones, and then wireless radio, wireless telegraphy, which later got called radio, and still has this radio. I'll have to look up how old this is, but it looks pretty modern because it has a number of functions. Yeah, that's how a once great company. Imagine a company being at top for about 50 years. I mean, we talk about Apple today. Apple has been there at top for only about 15, 20, 22 years. This was on top for about 50 years, and then really disappeared. That's last bits and pieces I think you will see here and there. That's it.